All right, everyone. This is Raddi, and we are live for tonight's episode of Fruit Talk. And this is the podcast style video that I do for you guys every Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. Well, tonight we're doing it a little bit earlier. We talk a lot about fruits and a lot about vegetables, guys. And tonight's episode's no exception. I'm going to talk about some fruits that I think are a must grow for any home orchardist here. We're also going to do a AMA, and normally we do sort of like a Q&A. I guess the only difference you could say is that I was kind of hoping for a more wide variety of different questions on, maybe things about myself or, are we even live right now? Yeah, let's see here. Let me just double check. This doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot right now. You know what? Maybe I should refresh this page. But the questions here we go. We are live. Yeah, all right, we're good. I got everything set up now. Okay. So I think the AMA is going to help kind of expand our questions a little bit and kind of get you guys to know me a bit more. I think that's what these live streams are mostly about, right? Is that we're trying to sort of, help you guys out, of course, but really make kind of our relationship more personal, I guess. And I've been trying to make that direction with my videos as of recently. I've realized that, especially for an artist, maybe less so a creator, but definitely for a creator or some kind of personality, not that I'm really I would consider myself a personality, you really should be an honest and personal and more yourself of a creator. You know what I mean? I think people really attract to that, and I'm not that I'm not being honest with you guys or I'm not being myself, but I feel like most of the time in my videos I just sort of teach you guys something and talk about one topic, and then that's it. And I don't really expand on a whole lot. So I hope that this AMA that we do at the end of the video here can sort of get people a little bit more familiar with myself, because we've been doing this for a number of years, and there's always new people that come in, and there's people that kind of go away for a bit. So people come back. I mean, I've been seeing similar names for a number of years, but you could tell by some of the comments and some of the things I've been seeing that there's always new people, and there's always a lot of people who really just don't know anything about me. And it's kind of mind-blowing to me, because isn't that just weird? For putting out a video almost every day. That I feel like, I guess maybe I'll never feel like that, but I just think people have like sort of weird generalizations about who I am and what I stand for, and I don't know, just weird thoughts about myself. So whatever, we'll clear that up hopefully when we do our AMA. But in tonight's episode, we're really going to be talking about, as I mentioned, what my must-grow fruit trees are, or fruiting plants, really. And I think also I want to mention before we get into this, I forgot, is that if you guys have a question and you can't really, you don't have time, or maybe you guys have to go, just post the question in the chat, and then you guys can always watch this video back again. You don't have to be here for the live stream 24/7. So put your question in chat, and we'll get to you guys. I want to say hello to everybody. So hey Tarek, what's going on? Nicholas, what's going on? Thank you guys for joining me. So all right, let's get into this now. We sort of have touched on this a little bit in what I really have liked so far, and I still need some time with some of these fruit trees and fruiting plants, and some of you guys have given me like some really great recommendations on some things to kind of branch out towards and new things to try. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at different things, and one thing that I was sort of doing this year is let's see, I'm going to One Green World here. I was looking at some different plants that I wanted to potentially add to the yard this year. And I found a couple things I thought would be interesting. And there's obviously there's so many more things I'd want to grow. But nothing was really like, oh, I gotta have this, you know? And I think that's sort of the message of this episode here is I wasn't like, oh man, this year I have to grow this, you know? And it's sort of been like that for every other year. And I've decided, first off, I'm not going to be here on this property forever. And I should stop planting some things that are not easy to take out of the ground, or some things I may not want to take out of the ground when I leave. And then also, the appeal is not necessarily there. I think there's a really fun appeal to planting something new and trying something new. But for this year, I think it's just a lot easier with my goals for this year and how I want to sort of live my life in the spring. You know, it's a lot less work in the spring to have to be planting and doing all these different things when I could just kind of eliminate a couple things. But, you know, there is some things I thought were quite kind of interesting. Particularly, I think I may cave, and I would like to get more citrus trees in general. There's one citrus tree actually right here that is actually doing quite well. That's my kumquat. I hope it flowers and starts growing. But that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, is more kumquats than anything else. I think the limes and the lemons have their place too. But there's this blood orange here that I was like, whoa, you know, this looks nuts. I mean, look at that. That's crazy. And I've only seen this here on One Green World. I did subscribe to the wait list. We'll see if they have any and if I can pick one of these up, or if I can convince myself to pick one up. The issue with the citrus with me is that I have limited indoor space in the wintertime. So I have to put one like right here, and the windows are not even down. That's the north side of my house. So this tree really is not getting any light pretty much at all. And I don't know. We're gonna move some things around, I think, or maybe we can figure something out. But I don't really know how I'm gonna grow this tree, and I don't really know. You know, if I go to the home page here, I think there was some other trees that I was looking at. It was showing me there was like a strawberry that I had some interest in. It wasn't this guy. This blue bean tree seems interesting, but more so is the akebia. I think this is one of the fruits that I wanted to try the most. I had met some people in Japan, and we went to this bar, and I was sort of talking with them, and the person actually that owns the bar and who was running and was actually bartending, and he and his wife and his kids were there too. They were so friendly, and they started asking me questions, and I was like, yeah, I grow some food, grow figs, and they're like, oh my god, we love figs. It was like their favorite fruit. And then they were telling me about this akebia vine that they love. That's their favorite fruit, and they said that I would love it because I think it's supposed to taste a lot like a fig. Like it's pretty fragrant. It's not as strong, you know. So this was like the one on the top of my list here of what I would consider growing. But again, I think we're just in that mode right now where I want to wait a few years before I really start experimenting. Like, I would love to get like a couple rows of like currants, and a couple rows of gooseberries, and a couple rows of honeyberries, and you know, all those weird shrub-like bushes, and plant like a bunch of that and see what I can do with that, and get enough production to like start making and processing them in certain ways, like maybe even trying a wine. I think a wine would be amazing. You know, making definitely some jam out of that stuff. We still have actually some red currants that I haven't made into jam just yet, but you know, that's kind of the goal with that. And I would love to kind of experiment with much more than what I am able to right now. Like, I sort of feel a bit hindered in a way. if that's the right word I'm looking for, or I may be limited. And figs, they're like too incredible not to experiment in a larger quantity with. I'd also love to really experiment with more persimmons, and especially pollinated persimmons. So get myself like a male tree, or a tree with male flowers on it, like I think it's coffee cake, or I can't remember the other one that Dave Wilson Nursery promotes. But I would love to do that kind of stuff. But again, it's just that kind of time of the year. So hello everyone that's just now joining us. In terms of the topic of today, and what I just think is a must grow, and maybe you guys saw this on Instagram, but tomorrow we're gonna have a video that's coming out on my Hoshigaki that finally finished. It really does take about 30 days. We tasted this stuff. I think it's coming out tomorrow or Friday, the video. I don't remember, but the point is that these fruits are just absolutely ridiculous. It is my favorite fruit now. I can definitively say that. I'm blown away. I really am. Because this is like, basically take the highest quality fig I can grow, and this fruit is like that consistently. And it's also consistently like that for a very large portion of my season. So for me, I'm like sort of blown away by this fruit. And if there was a persimmon out there that had some like berry tones to it, in addition to all that amazing persimmon dried fruit flavor, I think it would be very difficult to say that wasn't like everybody's favorite fruit. Like that would be something really special. Wouldn't that be something really weird and interesting? So I think the reason I consider it must grow, other than the fact that it's just so good, is that you have such an easy fruit tree, easy to grow, it crops heavily, gives you fruit every year. So the productivity and all that's there. You can't really find them in the store, and that's, I think, the number one criteria, right? When you think about something you have to grow, it would be really so much better if you just didn't, if like you couldn't find them. You know what I mean? Like if you had to choose and you said, all right, I only have the options of 5 different fruit trees. What are the 5, right? Well, of course you would go with something that you can't find at the store, or even better is that maybe you can find it at the store, but the quality between what you can grow versus what you get at the store is so different that it's very, very much so worth growing. And those are like the things, like for me, strawberries and tomatoes, those are like the first 2 that I think of that are so astronomically different. Figs as well. The persimmon is definitely better when you grow it yourself, 100%. There's no doubt about that. But the quality is definitely a bit closer, but you can't really find them. It's difficult. They're expensive. I would love to have, and this is my big reason, is that I would love to have Hoshigaki like this pretty much all wintertime. It really doesn't take a whole lot of effort to dry these fruits. It's actually incredible. That for me is like the biggest key, is that I don't have to have a dehydrator. I don't have to have an oven. I don't have to have, a stove where I can make this stuff into jam, or I don't have to process this in some weird way. This is just naturally going to dry in a drier environment in your house. You have a drier room. You can turn on a fan. For 30 days, you basically get yourself these incredible tasty treats for a very long window. It's not like these are going to go bad. They crystallize the exterior with sugar. You can kind of see that on this a little bit. We didn't necessarily get to that point with some of them. But, that for me is like the number one. The number 2, it's got to be the fig, right? It's a must grow. And the biggest reason, even though, here's my buddy Chris, by the way. Chris was over at my house, And we had a day similar to like this, where we just had a whole plate of different varieties. And we legitimately had just a feast. I mean, we probably had that day somewhere around 25 different varieties at one time. He tried them all. I tried them all. And then I bought some figs that we did a video on. We did a video talking about how store-bought figs are nowhere near in comparison to the homegrown figs. So I bought a couple things of store-bought figs that were grown in California, Black Mission, probably caprified, I don't know. But it's really funny because I gave Chris, and he was the main focal point of the video, to see what he had to say, because I'm obsessed with figs, right? But I picked one out for me, I picked one out for him out of the basket of figs that I bought. I bought 2 different pints. In the pint, I picked the 2 best ones. Gave him one, like I said, gave me one. Got him to eat it on camera and catch his reaction, and I don't know how he contained himself, because the 2 figs that we ate were actually incredible. I was shocked. I didn't expect the store-bought fig to be so good. But that wasn't really the point of the video, right? It turned out that we had compared our Col de Dame, I think it was my Col de Dame Noir or Col de Dame Gris, to the Black Mission store-bought figs. The Col de Dame was still better. However, because this was like the best of the bunch in the pints, and it was the most ripe, and it was picked pretty much at the right time, we got a pretty good glimpse into what a homegrown fig was. I mean, that really was like a homegrown fig. Even though it was shipped all the way across the country, it was picked at the right time, and that's really the key, is letting it hang on the tree for a longer period. And me and him were both blown away, but I guess the more commonly what's going to end up happening is that you're not going to have that experience every time, right? You're going to have, that's 1 out of maybe 2 pints, or maybe 1 out of every pint that you get that really incredible fig. The rest of them are kind of crap, and I don't really enjoy them all that much. I just bought some Christmas Eve, I think. It was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Christmas Eve. I went to the store, saw some, I had to pick something up, brought them home, and I was just like, oh my God, how can you even call these figs? I was so disappointed. Luckily you can dry them and get them to a better state. But, it is what it is. So the next sort of thing I think is a must grow is that you should definitely find yourself some sort of stone fruit that works in your area. And I do find that if you can get them to that perfect ripeness, they're incredible. Particularly, I think the plums, the nectarines, the peaches, the apricots are really something. You could probably find some pluots that are up there as well. I personally think that the apricot's above them all. And my peach is probably second. But I've yet to... I think there's some really specialty plums out there that could really knock that off. You have the right environment. I have a friend who thinks his nectarines are the best fruit that he grows, but he's got the perfect environment, not a lot of water and all that. But for me, this difference in the quality between something you grow at home in terms of the stone fruits is so astronomically different that you got to do it. And you're just kind of eating, in a way, you really are just eating crap. It really does rub me the wrong way. I become a snob, definitely, with the stone fruits. I think some Asian pears, because they're so difficult to obtain, I think that's also a must grow. They're also really incredible because people, believe it or not, pick them too early as well. And if you let them ripen on your tree, let them turn orange, actually, they turn almost gold. It's really nuts, the color on these damn things. It's like a reddish orange color. They really will shock you. I mean, they really put out a quality fruit that's pretty hard to beat. I do think in terms of the nectarines, or in terms of the stone fruits, in terms of apples, I think apples is probably another one that you guys should grow. There's a lot of these I could say. It's a must grow. For me at least, I'm thinking I'm going to be growing most of this stuff my entire life. In terms of European pears, maybe I could say, if I had to, I could say it's okay. But apples I think is a must do, a must grow, because you can get really some huge variety out there. I think that's a big point to make. Also, believe it or not, the quality is better. I've particularly really been impressed by the fragrance on the apples, and I've smelled some apples that were on the ground, like 6 feet away from me. Smelled them 6 feet away and said, "Oh my God, what is that smell?" And it was an apple, and it smelled a lot like a candle. I couldn't believe it. Like one of those apple cinnamon candles that people have in their homes. I'm sure some of you guys do. So, and I think there's just some beauty in like growing some of these pears and apples and stone fruits. I think it's like one of those things that are like sort of such a standard, even though you can find them, that there's sort of like some sort of beauty in it and some novelty in it. And I think that's just like the staple things that just, to me, they make a lot of sense. I think we're going to almost go through most of this and say we have to grow these things, because maybe at some point we should say I could probably live with this, or maybe I should just stick with my favorites, because it's pretty much everything I'm growing I think is a must grow. I mean, other than maybe like I actually do really love the jujubes, but particularly honey jar. I think the bush cherries I could probably live without. In fact, the cherries in general I could live without. The honeyberries I could probably live without. Maybe the currants and the definitely the goji berries we could live without. The cherry, it's never fruited for me, right? The blueberries I could live without. So I guess that's not everything that I'm saying you must grow, but maybe we should try and limit this. And I will say the pawpaw is definitely something you should grow. Yeah, so let's kind of limit this. All right, so what I'll say in terms so far is that we got the persimmon, we got the fig, and I would also throw in there the apricot, okay? I throw in the apricot. The next thing I would go down to, I may even I would throw in the Asian pear as well. I think I would even skip the apple, as crazy as that sounds. Even though there's no scenario in which I'm not growing an apple tree, right? But pawpaw, this is one that definitely you must grow. And the reason for this is that there's really only a banana that really comes close to it, and you could get bananas at the store, but the Cavendish is kind of crap, and it's not a pawpaw, of course. It's not the same thing, but it is the only real tropical fruit that we can grow here. And I've been sort of like on the fence and in the past, and I've talked about this, just thinking about like whether or not I should grow certain tropical fruits. And you would think that if I could grow bananas here, I would, right? But it's a lot of work, and it's not always successful, and it takes years and a lot of food and a lot of water and a lot of nutrients. And at the end of the day, I've realized after doing this for so many years now, that there's a replacement for almost every tropical fruit. There's something at least sort of similar that we can grow. I mean, maybe not the exact same thing, but one of the fruits that I really love from the tropical world is the more tropical places, even though it's not really tropical, but the date is one that I absolutely am in love with. And I have to say the persimmon's sort of just like that. It's pretty much a date. you're pretty much eating a date. It's not the same thing, but I think the pawpaw is similar in that you're kind of eating like a mango slash a banana that's a little bitter. And I think it's really such an amazing fruit that you really can do so much with it too, that it just seems like a no-brainer. It does take a while to get going, but overall, like the fig, the persimmon, the pawpaw, like really nothing bothers them all that much. I mean, there is some late frost that come in and could ruin your pawpaw flowers, but I would say those are my tops, even above the apricot and the Asian persimmon. I would probably include raspberry in this, but I think I'm also going to skip raspberry. No, I can't skip raspberry, just simply due to the fact that the quality is incredible. There's a wide variety of flavors of raspberries because there's different colors, right? There's yellow raspberries, there's pink raspberries, there's black raspberries, there's purple raspberries. They all have a different flavor, but they're so insanely productive and easy to grow, and I get out there every day and pick an entire bowl, like a pint, of raspberries every day from only two mature plants that are well maintained. So for me, I think that's a must. The strawberry, though, is absolutely a must. This is something I will never not grow, and particularly I really like the June bears more so than the ever-bearing types. However, the Mare de Bois is so incredible, which, by the way, guys, I'm going to be digging up like a ton of Mare de Bois strawberry plants to thin out that bed. And then I'm going to bundle them up, sell them to you guys if anyone's interested for a pretty cheap price. I'm going to sell them in bundles of 25. And that way you guys have these 25 bare-rooted Mare de Bois plants, and we can all be growing these damn things because they really are incredibly, incredibly good. By the way, I want to thank everybody for joining us so far. We are going to get to the chat here pretty soon, and that AMA is going to happen. So if you have questions and you can't really stay, put the question in the chat, and I'll get back to it later in this video, and you guys can always go back and watch this. But even the Alpine strawberry is one that you have to say, I guess we have to grow that one too, because it's like a next level strawberry. Maybe we can clump those two together and have a nice mix of both. There's also strawberries out there, not just the Mare de Bois, that have that interesting strawberry kind of Concord grape flavor to it. So do the Alpine strawberries, but there's also like purple strawberries that I'm trying to propagate here. I have a variety called Purple Wonder, and I'm hoping, because it's purple, maybe it's not like purple like some of these raspberries are, but I'm thinking the flavor is going to be quite different, or maybe more intense. That's what I'm kind of crossing my fingers on here. But certainly the white strawberries, the ones that are pine berries, and One Green World, this is the strawberry I think I was looking at, because I don't know where it was, guys. I really don't remember where. Let's see here. Berries. Let's go to berries. I had found myself not the normal pine berry that we see, like Stark Brothers sells it and Burpee sells it. I grew that one time for a year, and I was really not impressed by it. And it seems to need pollination. This one, though, I think is different. And there was a strawberry I saw somewhere. Maybe it was this, maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. I'm trying to find it. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, please let me know. But there was a white strawberry like this, sort of like a pine berry, as they call them. By the way, here's that pine berry that we can, that I can show you guys here. Because this is the one that is a June bearer. I think it's a June bearer. Oh no, it's an everbearing type, but it needs pollination from another berry. And I found that because it needed pollination, it didn't set all that much fruit. It was not very productive at all. Plus, the strawberry is extremely, extremely soft. And I think Mar de Bois is very soft. And to then think that if Mar de Bois is soft, that this one's softer, I can't imagine this being a good strawberry, because it's already Mar de Bois so soft that you really have to like pick it at the perfect time. If it goes past that day, you're pretty much in trouble, and it's going to start fermenting a little bit because it's so soft and because it's so delicate. This is even more delicate, and for me, I just found it to be a waste of time. But this one, or wherever it was I was reading about this, somebody was saying that they had something that was different than this one, that they bred it, someone had bred it, and somebody had came up with their own pineberry, and that it was really something special. I have to find it. Maybe this is it. But I don't know. I would like to grow this one, and that's kind of the flavor that I'm going for here with these different types of strawberries, is that they really do taste like a pineapple, right? That was kind of the whole point of what I was saying, in that there's different flavors even within strawberries. So the next thing I think I would grow as well is the grape. And I've been kind of really foolish, guys. I've been really foolish because for years now, I've been struggling with my grapes and black rot. And we even tried in a very harsh chemical last year to see if we could prevent the black rot. And I've just come to the conclusion through watching a video that Edible Landscaping did. Michael McConkey did it. And then also I think Lee Reich did it, if I'm pronouncing his last name right. He wrote a book, maybe you guys have seen it, on growing all these different types of fruits. But the both of them are recommending bagging your grapes. If you bag them, they don't get the black rot here in very humid places. And you can let them ripen on the vine for in a very extended period of time. I've sort of been able to do that, believe it or not, here. I got lucky, I think last year, I think it was. And I was able to even make some raisins and really let the grape hang on the tree, on the vine, for a super long time. And let me tell you guys, these things sweetened up so much that they put out their own nectar, their own honey, that when I dried them into raisins, they legitimately had their own nectar that was solidified like honey, that was visible on the grapes, on the raisins. So like for me, that's incredible. They are an incredible fruit for sure. I have a feeling if I'm able to do this correctly and get them to that perfect ripeness, they actually may become something that I really go crazy about in the future, because it's true that I love the persimmon, but the main reason I haven't been on the grape train is because of that black rot. So yeah, that's something I'm gonna always love. And I think maybe you can throw in the muscadine grape in there, and maybe you can even throw in the gooseberry in there, because then you can have 3 different crops of grapes. You know, the gooseberry is the earliest in like July, and then the European grape comes in at like August, and then the muscadine grape is a fall grape, and you basically just get, excuse me guys, you get an entire crop of grapes that way. The kiwi is definitely a must grow. We skipped gumi, but we'll come back to gumi here. The kiwi is, for those of you guys who've tried those kiwi berries at the store that Kiwi Corners grows, and they had this really awesome video and this like awesome passion that they wanted to basically create a market for these kiwi berries, and then they did. It took them like 30 years, but they did it. I was just blown away by what they were able to do and how amazing these kiwi berries taste. They're a fuzzless kiwi that you can't really find. You can find them at Whole Foods and maybe some, I've seen them at farmers markets, but you know, you're never going to find a gooseberry. I mean, that's almost impossible. You're never going to get the European grape to that perfect ripeness. Plus the varieties you grow are just superior. They're picking these things and they're getting these commercial grapes for like those perfect bunches. You know, they're spraying them heavily. So the kiwi is just like one of those things. Again, you can't find it. It's easy to grow. Once this thing gets established, it's a monster. Puts out a ton of fruit. I mean, you're just gonna be in like total heaven. I would love to see if I could dry some of them too, and how they would end up. You know, put some of them in like the dehydrator or the oven and see what happens to them. The gumi is for me one of the best fruits of the spring. You gotta have it, gotta grow it, particularly carmine here. We got rid of our red gem, and you can see here I got carmine at Burnt Ridge, and let me just tell you guys, it's nuts. It's insanely good. I'm gonna actually get rid of this row here so that, because I pulled the other one, guys. Carmine is 4 times bigger, and the other gumi that I grew and the other ones that you can find are just too small. The flavor wasn't as good either, but the fruits they have such a large pit that the pit to flesh ratio is so small that it's just not worth eating. It really almost isn't. But carmine is 4 times bigger, and it's incredible. It tastes amazing. It does have some astringency. They're like eating gummy bears, though. If you let them dry, you can really, actually, if you protect them from the birds, they will dry up on the tree, and they will turn into gummy bears. And I'm not kidding. It's actually ridiculous. For me, I'm even putting that, I may even consider in the long run, maybe next year, that may even be like a top 5 fruit for me. That's how incredible I think they are. Yeah, so that's sort of the end here, I think, guys, is that we talked about the persimmon. You know, I'm tempted to say you should grow a honey jar. I think that's close to be like a must grow for me. It's so strange. It's so incredibly good. But to me, it's very reminiscent of an apple. And the apples I didn't even put in the must grow category. Even though, you know, there isn't going to be a time in my life where I'm not growing apples. I just think they're maybe just slightly lower on the tier list for me. And you know what? You guys are going to have different opinions, and I don't want to discourage anybody from not growing something or you know, from growing something. You know, get out there and try all this different stuff. But I'll bet you, if you got the right climate and you can ripen these fruits to perfection that I mentioned in this video, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to be just incredibly surprised at how good they are. And you're really going to be hooked at that point. So I guess if I had to narrow it down, those would be like some of the fruits that I grow, guys. So I hope everybody's got some like wine. I know I do. As everybody knows who's joined us for other live streams, that's been our standard, right, guys? So cheers, everybody out there who's watching. It's a new year, right? And we talked a little bit about the new year. I didn't really talk a whole lot about it. I think there's so much information and so much crap out there in the new year that it's just become so boring and mundane that I try not to harp on it too much. But you know, this is really the first year that I became an adult, or at least was an adult, because I was 18. Now I'm 28 at the beginning of this new decade. So it's just been an incredible 10 years for me. I like where my life's at. I like where I'm heading. I like pretty much everything about my life. I'm very, very happy, guys. Let's kind of start this AMA here, and we'll get back to everybody. And if you guys have any questions, you know, please put them in the chat. But you know, as I mentioned sort of in the beginning of this video, I wanted to get you guys more familiar with who I am and more personalized in the kind of person I am, because even though I don't like sharing a whole lot of stuff about me, I just think you guys don't really have a great understanding of who I am as a person. So I want to talk a little bit about that with you guys today. I was trying some things. I wanted to make a post because I've been feeling so good. I wanted to make a post on like Instagram and Facebook. I've been feeling so good about my health that I've really been impressed and happy with some of these things that I've been taking to make me feel better. Really just simple things, not even just like drugs or anything, or medicine, but like, things really as simple as like turmeric with black pepper is like incredible. It's extremely powerful. It's basically a replacement to ibuprofen, and better. I play tennis, as some of you guys know. I've been playing tennis since college. I played in college. I played in high school. Tennis is pretty hard on your body, guys, and you really twist in all kinds of weird ways. And I end up every time I play, the next day I'm pretty sore. And I find that if I just take some turmeric, that soreness pretty much goes away for good. Like it doesn't. It's not like a lingering. It's not like a Band-Aid that you put on your arm and then rip it off and the wound is still there. This thing is legitimately curing the inflammation in your body. And I'm not a doctor, but basically, this inflammation thing is becoming a big topic of discussion. And I will say that there's even people out there like Dr. Weil. For those of you guys who know who this person is, this is a holistic doctor, a nutritionist, and he has an anti-inflammatory diet that he recommends, and he's got like a food pyramid that I guess is kind of easy to follow. And for me, this really makes me feel wonderful. This golden milk thing here, it may sound like nutso craziness, but if I had to probably tell you guys about one weird health thing that I think would help a lot of people is turmeric. And it's just like ginger, guys. We've grown ginger here. Actually, we've grown galangal here. So you can actually grow this stuff. You can grow ginger, galangal, and turmeric. I know Big Bill in Lancaster is growing it all. I would like to. I'm debating it. I'm trying to see if I have room in my garden beds this year, but I'd like to plant some turmeric. But you can get the stuff cheap, man. It's not like an expensive thing, and it's just pepper. The black pepper increases its bioavailability. I've read a study on it. It's called piperine, but yeah, that's an interesting one for me. Alrighty, guys. Yeah, I mean, exactly. If you eat plant-based foods, they all pretty much are anti-inflammatory. I think omega-3s are really good, and so are anything green for the most part. Vitamin D as well, guys. I wouldn't say I'm the healthiest person in the world, but I think compare to a lot of other 28-year-olds, I'm on a good path here, guys. I'm doing pretty well. A lot of my friends are getting fat. Just people who are not like my friends. I'm just seeing it everywhere. A lot of people are putting on weight this time of year, and maybe it's a 28 thing, or around this age, I should say. People start sort of putting on a little bit of weight. People get a little comfortable. People stop caring about the way they look, and there's always that state you guys get to where we are comfortable with the way we look, right? And then we gain 5 pounds, and we look in the mirror and we say, you know what, that's okay. I would rather be 5 pounds lighter, but I don't mind the way I look. And then it just keeps from there spiraling out of control and getting worse. To the point where you, believe it or not, you start being comfortable with being 50 pounds overweight. It's just like, what are we doing? So I will also recommend, there's a lot of data out there on, if you guys are interested on losing weight, obviously Gardening is great, and so is growing and eating the foods that you guys grow. But intermittent fasting is wonderful. We're not really supposed to be eating, guys, from the second we wake up to the second we go to bed. And I've always been a night owl. I've always had trouble falling asleep at night. My brain doesn't shut off. I've heard this from a lot of different people. And all I did to cure this, it took me 28 years of my life to stop this from happening so I could fall asleep at an earlier point of my life, is that you just stop eating. At a certain time of night, and even right now, it's almost 9 o'clock. Pretty soon, I have to stop. This is it. You're not really even supposed to drink before you go to bed, because it kind of ruins your sleep a little bit. But I do find that because I did a couple little weird habit changes in terms of fasting, not eating at certain times really made me sleep better. And then because I slept better, I then felt better overall. Like, it was like a giant realization of like, oh, duh, like, why haven't I been doing this? And it's kind of upsetting to me, just like these fruits and vegetables are, guys, that we grow. No one told us that we were being robbed of something. You know what I mean? Like, these different fruits and these different vegetables are so much better than the store that I feel cheated. I sort of feel cheated as an adult who's 28 years old, and the science and the information just isn't out. It is out there now, but it wasn't out there before, and no one came along and told me and said, Ross, don't eat past 9 o'clock because you just won't fall asleep and you'll be in this weird circadian rhythm thing. It messes with your circadian rhythm, guys. So yeah, this is a big recommendation. I think a lot of us, and sleep apnea too. We're gonna be on this train, guys. We're gonna be on this thing here of just teaching everybody how to be healthy. I think maybe we should go back. I should go back to school, learn how to be a doctor, and then people will listen to me. But I think sleep apnea is a really big thing. If you guys are sleeping with your mouth open and snoring, that's a big sign that you guys have sleep apnea, and you really should fix that. You will live a better life, I promise you. Alrighty, okay, so let's get on to these questions here in the AMA here, guys. I want to thank you guys recently down here for putting in some more personal comments here. We'll get to that in a minute. Alright, so Mike's, what's going on, Mike? We said hello to Nicholas and Tarek. What's going on, guys? Steve Rogers said, what fertilizer do I use for my trees? Steve, we've done actually a number of videos on this. Are you talking about the potted trees or the in-ground trees? Because if it's potted, those I feed. The in-ground trees I don't feed. And the reason for the not feeding the in-ground trees is because I just put down a lot of mulch. I put down things like comfrey and wood chips and different materials that break down and form compost and then feed the soil and feed the micro biome of the soil, the earthworms, and then I just end up having a ton of earthworms that create castings. You can even visibly see the castings on the tops of every root ball of all my fruit trees because of this, just putting down organic material. The potted trees, they need an external fertilizer. That's just not going to work. So you got to give them something, preferably synthetic, or that Alaska fish fertilizer. And I think Joseph here actually was talking about that. What's your opinion on the Alaska fish fertilizer? I haven't used it. I know people who have had insane success with that stuff. Insane. And I would use it if it was more affordable. I would. It also does smell, and it can attract critters and all that, and they'll dig through your pots. But that's the best stuff, man. That is probably the one thing I would use above everything is the Alaska fish fertilizer if price wasn't an option. Otherwise, you got to go with something synthetic. And at that point, it doesn't really matter because there's just some numbers on the thing, on the bag or the box or whatever it is. You just want to control the right nitrogen ratio. You want to have the right level of nitrogen. I can't tell you exactly what that is because it depends on what you're growing and what your soil is like. And there's so many missing, data points here that I need. But I'll tell you that you can't really get too much of the phosphorus or the potassium. So you kind of can go nuts with that. I mean, you can have too much, I guess, but that nitrogen's the only real number on there. That's the first number, the NPK. Just worry about that number. It really doesn't matter what it is. It's all chemically the same stuff, really. You want to add in your micronutrients. Cover them all. That's a good thing. What's going on, Troy? Good evening, buddy. Mia says, my fig plants are in the basement. Oh, whoa. Your fig plant's in the basement, has fruits already, and she's in New York. Well, that's not good. We did a video really recently. Let's see if we can find this one for you guys. Just came out. It was like the 9 biggest reasons we fail at successful fig season. And one of the reasons we said that people fail the most is they wake their trees up too early. And that's sort of what you did right now. And the issue is really quickly that because it's in your basement, you don't have any natural light. And your trees are not growing at the rate and the strength that they should be. And because of that, you're going to struggle, unfortunately, with this really thin, spindly growth in your basement. And it's not good. What I would suggest is putting them somewhere colder. That's going to slow them down. Even though they're awake, it is going to slow that wake-up process down. Or put them in somewhere that has natural light. If they already have leaves on it, transition it very slowly to the outdoor full sun. But you want to make sure that these plants are getting that full sun, because you're going to have this weak, spindly growth that's then going to not be very productive at all and really ruin the structure of your tree and the season for you. It's kind of like close to the worst thing you can do in any fig season, other than like killing your tree. I would say that's probably number 2. So I would really recommend figuring out a way around that. Sorry for the bad news. Joseph says, hey Ross, what are your... Oh, we did that already there. Mike says, what do I do with all my fresh figs? I eat them. And I dry them. We make them into jam. I have a lot of people in my life that enjoy figs, so we eat them. And then this year coming up, we're going to be selling them locally. Mark says, should I check my dormant potted plants for moisture to know when to water them? Yeah, you should. People recommend, and we've talked about this before, you water them like once a month, about 4 ounces. I don't do that because I water them in really well before I put them away. And I have layers of mulch on top of the soil. That mulch keeps in that moisture. I don't have to water them for the entirety of the growing season. If you have a dry storage area, you will have to water them regardless, even if you have the mulch on there, no matter what you do. So, every 2 months it's a good idea, or every month. Just check the soil. Mainly you're just trying to keep the top a little bit moist, but sometimes even the whole thing can get pretty dry. I'd rather have them on the drier side than the wet side, because if they're wet, they're going to start to rot, especially if they're young, unhealthy, in bad soil. You're going to have a dead tree come spring. So overall, it's better to just kind of not water them. But you don't want to completely neglect them, because they can dry out too, and they can die that way. Joseph said, you ever grown Jack Lily? I haven't. And I really never really had any intention to. It doesn't seem like the best tasting fig. Yeah, I've just never heard any good reviews on it. I think probably there are some people out there who enjoy it. I think maybe even my buddy Brian likes it, but yeah, I see no point here. DZA says, hi, I have 85 fig plants. Still not enough for me. All right, well, I applaud you. All right, Joseph says mulberry is a must-have. Yeah, I do enjoy mulberries, guys, I have to say, and I think depending on where you live, you can really grow some very tasty and special mulberries that are probably better than some Illinois everbearing that I've had here. But, it's a climate thing, and it's definitely a preference thing, guys. Christopher Rizzo says, I finally got a notification. Awesome. DZA, I would say lemon is a must-have. Yeah, I agree that citrus in the kitchen is like so important. Having citrus in your cooking is really important, guys. Some acidity in your food. Michael says bananas are a pain in the butt here. That's for sure. I don't know where you are, Michael, though. Mike says, received cuttings today. I purchased from you. Dang, that was quick. Thank you. You got it, buddy. Also, Mike, I sent you a message on Facebook responding to your soil question that you had. Mark says, my grandfather used to tell me that he would see pawpaw trees in the woods while hunting, and that was back in the 1930s. I never heard of these until he told me about them when I was a kid. Yeah. I'm surprised your grandfather even knew what they were. DZA said, homegrown potatoes taste amazing. Oh, yeah. For sure. Especially the German butterball. Oh, man, was that good. And I swear to you guys, I swear, you just have to grow this potato. Where is the photo of these things? I guess these are them right here, but nah. These are them right here. This is the German butterball. They have the best texture. They taste really nutty and all that, and they're really good flavor, but the money is in the texture here, guys. They're really something when you cook them. Michael says the Mar de Bois strawberry is unreal. Thank you. You're welcome, buddy. Louis Leone. Sorry, buddy. Hey, everyone. Great job, Ross. Thanks, bud. What's up, Chad? Love Burnt Ridge, says Michael. Yeah, they're great. I've gotten a number of things from them. Nicholas is talking about Moscato grapes. You ever grow those, Nicholas? Let's see. Robin asked me if I'm plant-based. I'm not. I'm not a vegan, but I do pretty much in the summer eat mostly just fruits and vegetables. It becomes very difficult in the wintertime because I'm such a snob now and I'm so spoiled that I can't really buy a lot of different vegetables from the store and be happy with it. So I end up in the wintertime eating a lot poorer, and I don't really eat nearly as much fruits and vegetables. So I think it's a good idea, and what I'm trying to do is just have a lot of fruit that I can dry or process them in some way so I can have them in the wintertime. Vegetables included. That's the goal down the road, if I can get myself some time to start processing more foods. Excuse me, guys. Nicholas says, currently play hockey and baseball. All right, buddy. I played baseball when I was young. I actually would like to join a softball team, but, it's tough. Tough to find time for all these different things. Morgan says, I played tennis in high school. Awesome. It's a lifelong sport, Morgan. You should get back into it because you could play when you're 87 years old, as my grandparents are, 87, and they play tennis every day of their lives. They live in Florida, and they have a dream scenario for retirement, guys. I'm telling you. And they work their butts off, and now their work is tennis. I swear. They go out there, and that's what they consider work, and that's what keeps them young and living long and healthy. And they play with a group of old guys, and my grandma plays as well, and she's the best one out there. It's really something. And they keep getting their different parts of their bodies replaced to continue playing, but you can play to the rest of your life. And it's so social that you end up staying young and having some desire to live and having all these friends around you. That's really the key. Sonny, what's going on? Hey Ross, do you grow any figs inside your greenhouse over the growing season? If so, does it avoid splitting issues? I do not, and it would avoid splitting issues if your greenhouse was dry. If it was not dry, it would not avoid splitting issues. So the humidity in the greenhouse, very important. Robin says, went plant-based and inflammation went away. Eat greens. Yeah, it's true. And all these people think vegans are nuts, but I tell you that they're living healthy. I'll say that. Ronnie, what's going on? I need to hear more about LSU Hooyay. I don't see it anywhere. Well, it is spelled LSU Holier, but I've been told it's Hooyay is how you pronounce it, and it's incredible. Actually, I put it in one of my best figs. Definitely a keeper. You can see right here on my spreadsheet. It's right here in one of my best tasting overall. One of my favorite early varieties that you can grow. It's really something sweet. It's got an interesting flavor profile, as we talked about. We talked about our flavor profile video. We talked about fruity honey. There's not a whole lot of figs in this category, as you can see. There's only 3 that I've come across so far. I really like Albo and I really like Bibera Branca, but LSU Hooyay and Albo just perform way better here and a lot better with the moisture, it seems like. Bibera Branca would be my choice for someone in California or someone in a warmer season, a longer season, in a drier place that can caprify the Bibera Branca. Alrighty. Gapey says, I'm trying to grow turmeric in Washington. It took forever to come out of the ground last year and never got very big. Yeah. Well, you're going to be able to overwinter that for sure. I don't see an issue with that, especially if you cover the ground with some mulch. That'll help insulate the soil a bit. But the turmeric is not going to sprout very quickly because it's largely based off of the soil temperatures. So you need to warm up the soil in the spring, and it's very strange, I guess, how this works, but you got to treat it like a fig. You warm up the soil in the spring, and then you cover the soil in the wintertime. But then you have to remove that covering in the spring, because if you cover the soil in the spring, you're cooling it down. You can add in some rocks if you want. I think that's probably a nice little difference there, but try planting it in a space in the spring in like March that gets a lot of sunlight and gets that ground warming up quicker. You may have it in a spot that doesn't get enough sunlight in the early spring, and that's the sunlight's not hitting the ground, and therefore it's not warming up. I would definitely not grow it as a ground cover, as turmeric normally is, because it's more of an understory plant. I should say it's more of an understory, not a ground cover. But I would not grow it as an understory plant. I would have it in full sun, just so that soil is getting hit. Plant it in a raised bed too. I mean, do anything you can to warm up that soil. Otherwise, you're gonna not really have much success with it, I've found. John says gardening is a great exercise. You bet. Wait, there's 2 John S's in the chat. What's going on here? This is really freaking me out. Ronnie says, do you work as a CPA, Ross? I do. I'm not a CPA yet. I'm still studying. We took the test in December. I did really well. And, yeah, I have a lot of confidence that I will eventually become a CPA. John, I love this. I love to talk between the 2 Johns in the chat. Okay. Morgan says, Yeah, Morgan says a small dose of melatonin works for him or her. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, Morgan. But yeah, I have tried melatonin myself, and it seems like nothing really helps my circadian rhythm better than just not eating at a certain time of night. Gapey says she came late. Is it wine you're drinking? You bet it is. This is alcoholic grape juice. No, it's quite dry. It's what is this one I'm drinking here? This is something new I haven't tried. I think it's a think it's a cab, but I normally don't drink cabs. I drink more along the lines of like a Barbera or some kind of Barbaresco or Barolo if I can find one cheap enough. But I'll settle for like a Pinot Noir or a cab. Some Montepulcianos as well. Gotta be red. Gotta be red. Let's see here. John says, when should I start my fig cuttings? Whenever you have the right environment to do it, you should do it. So if you have the right indoor environment, the right temperature, needs to be about 70 to 75, preferably above 75 to 80. And you have the lights all set up. You have the soil all ready to go. Do it. You need about 3 months indoors, I think. I think that's a nice minimum number right there. It's 3 months indoors before you bring them outside. Yo, what's going on, Simon? What's going on, buddy? Morgan says, Paul Gauchi says that he picks the sprouts right there about 2 to 3 months ago when the figs were tasty. Are you talking about turmeric? Because I think he does, or no, I don't know what you're talking about, Morgan. Yeah. Wish I could help. I don't know what you're, but Paul Gauchi is in Washington and he is growing turmeric, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, it may just also take some time as well. You know, first year ginger and first year turmeric, it's a lot to kind of get going. You know, it may be like a second year crop for you. But definitely warm up the soil. Nicholas says he can't wait to germinate some pawpaw seeds. Raul is saying the Alaska fish fertilizer is expensive, yeah, but it can go a long way with 1 or 2 tablespoons per gallon of water. Yeah, that's true. I would probably use more than that, though. I'd probably use like maybe even 3 tablespoons per feeding. I'm not sure. I have a friend that will literally inject the fish fertilizer into his pots, into the soil. He gets a big turkey baster, I think, and he injects it in there. Okay, so Michael's in 6B and he's growing bananas. All right, but very ambitious, I have to say. All right, Nicholas says, I have them in my backyard. I'm experimenting with making subs. Wait, what do you have in your backyard, dude? Moscato grapes, okay. All right. Let me know how it goes. I don't know what zone you're in, though, Nicholas. I forget where you live. Mike asked me if I ever tried a good fig wine. I haven't. There's not a whole lot of them out there, I think. And I don't know why that is. I'd be open to trying one for sure. I don't actually mind a sweeter wine. Like, I do find some value in like blueberry and like blackberry and even some like Concord grape wines. I think they're not bad as like a nice dessert wine. You know, kind of like a port. Nicholas is going to make wine for the first time this fall. Joseph said, one time your videos, you were speaking of the Dalloso fig, that it's a delicate tree with thin limbs and mule figs. Is this true? I feed and care for mine, but its limbs are thinner than all my other trees. The Dalloso doesn't have very thin limbs, actually. I have one tree that this year didn't perform all that well because of, I think, some of its root system got damaged a little bit. So that was the only reason. But normally it doesn't have thin limbs. It puts out a pretty aggressive amount of growth, and it fruits really well. So if your tree is struggling, Joseph, you may want to consider some rejuvenation pruning. And that's pretty much just cutting your tree back to a certain height. And by doing that, you're going to rejuvenate and cut out some of that damaged wood that is potentially limiting that nutrient flow to the fruiting branches. Arthur says, what variety of kumquat am I growing? I'm growing the Miwa variety in Central Texas. It's a 15-gallon size pot. This one is called Fukushu. It's the Fukushu one, kumquat. I think that's one of the bigger ones. I think there's one that is super big, and that was maybe the one I chose, or maybe I chose a slightly different one. But I think that's the bigger one there. By the way, how's the stream been? Because this is the first time I'm doing this in this room here. We ended up moving my desk, and I decided to do everything up here now. And I will say the internet has been really spotty, and that's kind of why we haven't done one of these live streams in a while. Because the internet, I'm so far away from the router now that my connection was really spotty. So we did get I got myself a booster, which boosts the connection, so that in this corner of the house I have a stronger internet connection. All right, so people are saying it's good. That's good. All right. Joseph says I got it from Dan Foster, so I know it's true to type, but I heard there's two versions. Is this true? There's many versions of Daloso, Joseph. Most of them are crap, and none of them are even close to the real Daloso that was depicted in Galicio's drawings. That was the whole goal, was to find one that was the real one that he originally drew in the drawings, and that was like a big search to try to find it. People thought it was extinct, and now there's Belfiore Nursery in Italy who came out and said, this is the real Daloso. We have it. We found it. And that's the Daloso that's very commonly grown now, even in the United States. I have it. Dan Foster has it. Mario in Connecticut has it. There's a lot of people now that are growing the Daloso Belfiore version. It's a dark fig, quite tasty. Should do well for you. Yeah, definitely recommend some rejuvenation pruning there. What are my opinions on watering with warm water? I always water with warm water. In the pots, in the rooting, my cuttings, for sure. Because that soil temperature is so key to these plants having a high metabolism, that if I interrupt their metabolism, they don't have success any longer. Hey, what's going on, Nafisa? I hope I'm saying your name right. Aren't you the one that's in Philly, actually? She asked me, I'm not sure if you talked about it tonight, but are you growing hardy kiwis? I tried store-bought kiwi berries, and they were so sweet and complex. I can only imagine how they taste homegrown. Yeah. We did talk about them tonight, and I think it's one of them things you just have to grow. It's a must grow. They're incredible. I haven't tried them homegrown, but I do know that they're going to be better than those store-bought ones. But I would imagine they're not much better. So I don't think it's going to be the biggest difference. I think really the key is that you're saving a ton of money, and you're going to have an endless amount of kiwi berries. Kind of the issue, though, is you need a lot of space for them, because it really stinks, because they just are like these massive vines, and they need a lot of trellising and a very sturdy trellis. If you don't have that, people really don't recommend you grow them, but you can spur prune them. And Michael McConkey at Edible Landscaping, I was considering doing this. I still am considering doing this. He talks about the spur pruning here. Here it is right here. Here's the video. I'll link you this. And it may not be exactly this video, but it's another one on his channel that they have where they explain the spur pruning. So what ends up happening is that they form a bush. Look at how many berries that is, by the way. That's nuts. You can grow them like grapes. He's showing you the spur pruning right now in this video, actually. But here's the bush that you would basically achieve. That's how massive and vigorous they are. But if you spur prune them, you can kind of turn them into like a bush rather than needing them to grow on a vine or as a vine on like a trellis system that is kind of like, your typical T system or your cordon system. It's just a lot easier this way, I think. But you have to prune a lot of the time. You have to prune throughout the summer, I think. Mark says, I forgot to say checking with a moisture meter. Yeah, Mark, you could either check with your moisture meter or your thumb or your fingers or whatever, whatever it is that is helping you determine the moisture in the soil. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you just want the moisture moist. You don't want it wet. You don't want it dry. That's the moisture content of the soil we want at all times for anything we do in terms of growing plants. Nicholas says, I just made wine for the first time this fall. Oh, gosh. How was it? Gapey says, I make mead, which is a wine. I've had some success and failures with it. Mead's pretty good. Very sweet, but I actually enjoy it, and it's really good for you, I'm sure, because that honey, that's something I really want to do. Talking about some New Year's resolutions, guys. What are some of your New Year's resolutions? But for me personally, I have a couple things I want to learn. I'd like to get really good at baking. I don't think I have the time right now to do beekeeping, but that's obviously something I want to do in the future. But I'd like to get really good at baking, and we're talking about not like cookies or muffins or anything like that. We're talking about like breads and pastas and like flour tortillas and like all these really awesome things you can make. Pizza with, things you can make out of dough. So that's a big one for me. And also the piano. I think I'm gonna commit a pretty good amount of time to learning this piano here. I have a keyboard, and this guy here, I think we're gonna give it a shot. We've given it a shot in the past. We've given the guitar a shot in the past, but I think I'm gonna just straight up commit to that one this year. Let's see here. Yeah, so it's pretty much the audio and the stream has been pretty good so far. That's good to hear, guys. Can I know your earliest one? I'm able to get some from my Hardy Chicago, and one I have started from seeds from Israel. Well, I'll tell you this, Bluska, is that starting seeds from figs is not going to result in something that's true to type. So if you planted some Hardy Chicago seeds, although Hardy Chicago is quite early, you're not going to have a Hardy Chicago tree anymore. You just invented a new variety of fig, and a lot of times they're going to be a Capra fig, a male fig, and it's not going to fruit edible fruit, and you're pretty much wasting your time with seedlings. You're completely wasting your time with seedlings, especially for you, somebody in 4B. So forget about the seedlings. Some of the very, very early ones I recommend are on this spreadsheet here. These should all do well for you, but even earlier than Hardy Chicago is Ronde Bordeaux. I think Malta Black personally is earlier by about a week. Pastellier is earlier by about 2 weeks, about the same as Ronde Bordeaux. There's also Floria and Improved Celeste and some other kind of not very spectacular tasting figs. I would recommend for Zone 4B something like Yellow Niches, Rasti's Northern Persian Unknown, but it's also now called Iranian Candy is the new name for it. It's been renamed. Brian, what's going on, buddy? You're drinking some homemade orange juice, homegrown orange juice. That's the life, man. I have some navel oranges that we ended up getting at the grocery store, and we didn't end up getting around to eating them. And I figured, you know what? Instead of throwing them out, maybe I should just try to juice them. and I haven't done it yet, but I'm interested to see how just some navel oranges come out. Let's see here. Nicholas is in Connecticut, 6A, 5B, something like that. I don't remember what we're talking about. Oh, the Moscato grapes, huh? I keep forgetting. So wait, you're gonna make wine out of the Moscato grapes, and you're growing them in 6A in Connecticut. Is that all right? We're kind of failing at our conversation here. All right, so Gapey's actually has a New Year's resolution. That's awesome. Somebody's got one, guys. Shame on the rest of you. But drink more water and use my infrared sauna more. What is an infrared sauna? Gardening related resolution is to get some figs in the ground. Okay, that's a good resolution right there. You know what's easy with the water for me personally is that you see this water bottle here. This is first off, it's reusable. It's glass. It's one of them Voss bottles. And I used to do this. I used to drink as many of these as I could because you can fill this up with a lot of water, right? And it's reusable. But I found that this just wasn't enough water. Eventually, I wanted to get to that gallon mark. So what I do nowadays is I literally just buy a gallon of water at the store. It costs very little. And then you take the gallon of water, the gallon jug, and you reuse that. And every day you just drink a gallon of water, and you know how close you are. And you also eliminate the need and the desire you may not have to get up and go refill your water bottle. A gallon of water is 4 of these, which is ridiculous if you think about it. And you had something smaller, it's more than 4 of these. So you have to get up how many times a day to go and refill it? It's just a pain. I think if you just use a gallon, you're going to easily succeed at it. And it's a challenge, but eventually you adjust and you then drink more water naturally. I think that's an easier one than you think, personally. Growing Back to Eden says, hey, Gapey's Grub, me about this live stream just now. I figured I'd let everyone know that if you're interested, I'm probably going to have quite a few Desert King fig cuttings from here. Oh. Wait. Is that Paul who's speaking right now? Who is that? I can't tell, but Paul does have a Desert King tree at his house, and I've seen it. It's actually very impressive. Oh, are you the guy who does the videos for Paul? That's a good one for sure in Washington. That's without a doubt. I can't really grow figs here that are for Bravas, because our season in the spring is very it fluctuates greatly. The temperatures fluctuate in the spring, and then we end up having, because of those fluctuations, a lot of the Bravas drop and fall off, and the tree kind of can't handle those fluctuations. Even in the fall, they really don't like those fluctuations. So it's kind of like just a complete hit or miss this year. Every year is the Brava crop. And a lot of times, even if you get a lot of Bravas that form, they never really hang on. It's just kind of a mess. Let's see here. What else is going on? Nafisa says, yeah, living in Philly is amazing. Oh. Sometimes I wish the gardening zone was different. Is this gardening zone ideal for you, or do you think moving south will allow you to grow more interesting plants? I've sort of committed to the fact that we don't really have the longest season here, because it's only really 6 months. It's longer if you're inside the city. You know, if you're like in Center City, there's like an extra 2 weeks that they have, or maybe even a month that they have. Maybe about 2 weeks really, than I have here, because I'm in the suburbs. But I've sort of just come to terms with the fact that this climate is extremely stable, and I'd rather live in a stable climate, and I don't mind where I live. And we don't have a ton of bugs. Like if you were to go further south, there's a ton of bugs. It is very warm in the summer, which I don't mind. It's more mild in the wintertime. I think just a little bit further south, I kind of talked about this in a video we did when everything was kind of going fall here, and everything was turning colors and how everything was so beautiful. And then I think we have a great, the fact that we have 4 distinct seasons is nice. But the seasons are pretty short, right? If you think about it, we have a long winter and we have a pretty long summer. We have a pretty short fall, which is really nice, but fall really doesn't last very long, right? Because we get a frost that comes in and kills all those leaves off, like pretty much right after Halloween. And then our spring is also really short. So if we live further south, I bet you we would have a longer fall and a longer spring and less of a harsh wintertime. And I think that would really make me definitely enjoy more of where I live, and then of course what I can grow. But it wouldn't really make much of difference in terms of what I can grow unless I lived in somewhere like, it had to be a zone 8, because I live in a zone 7. There's not too much difference between, like, there is in a way, but I think if I was going to do it, I'd want to go up to like a zone 8 where I could probably grow some like citrus in the ground. It would have to be a pretty big jump, let's say that, right? A big enough jump to where I could grow any fig tree I wanted in the ground. I could caprify, I could colonize the fig wasp, I could grow pomegranates in the ground, I could grow citrus in the ground, I could grow some special mulberries in the ground. What else could you do in like zone 8? I could probably grow some like loquats. I could maybe get away with that. Maybe some like types of guava, like a pineapple guava. That would be exciting, right? But at the end of the day here, like I said, I've come to the terms that we live in a great place. We do. And there's always a greenhouse, right? We can grow anything we want in a greenhouse. You can believe that. I'm going to be growing bananas, pomegranates, citrus, all kinds of tropical fruits that don't get too big, like star fruits. We can do that here. You just need a big enough greenhouse and something that's efficient. Efficiency is the key word there. And we can do whatever we want. Yeah, let's see here. Okay, so Nicholas, that's awesome, dude. You made some wine from the Moscato grapes. That's awesome. You should send me a photo of that. I want to see what that. How was it, dude? Tell me about it. Like, was it easy to do? Yeah. So Nick, I didn't know you live with Paul, but that's awesome. I know you help him out and you do all those videos for him. That's really great. I watch a lot of those videos, those tours. Paul's a special guy for sure. And I've learned a lot from Paul, believe it or not. I really like his potato method, where he basically he harvests the potatoes and then puts one right back on the same day. That's like the coolest thing. That is literally the coolest thing I think he does. Do you know if Paul is still growing wasabi? Because I would love to know if he ever succeeded with that. I know that you probably actually have a better environment for that. But I'm thinking maybe I could get away with that here. I'm thinking it's possible, but I never gave it a shot because I wanted to actually have some guinea pigs and tell me how they did with it. Michael's telling me to get a cheesesteak from Jim's. Oh man, the cheesesteaks here are overrated. I'll tell you that. You want to have a heart attack? Eat a cheesesteak here, guys. Alser says pomegranates, figs, and citrus do great here in Tallahassee. No kidding. Oh yeah, they should for sure. Let's see. Yeah, so like that's kind of where I'd want to live, right? Like I'm sort of fine with Philly and the suburbs of Philly. I would consider somewhere like around North Carolina, but if it wasn't like North Carolina or somewhere that's like just enough warmer that you're like the seasons all work themselves out, it would have to be somewhere very warm, like Florida. I think at some point in my life I will live in Florida or California. It'd have to be somewhere very warm for me because it just, to me, it doesn't make sense. I would even consider Hawaii. I think Hawaii would be a great, interesting place to live. I don't know if you guys know who Joe Hewitt is, but he did some interesting things with his life, and he started growing these tropical fruits in California, and then he just moved recently to Hawaii, and he's growing all these tropical fruits there because he loves tropical fruits. I mean, that's like some serious commitment, right? Let's see here. Gabies was saying that citrus requires zone 9 to 11. There's some citrus that'll survive about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is a zone 8. And there's also some citrus that I think can go maybe even down to 15. You can get away with it, believe it or not. And you can find the right microclimate in the right climate, you can do it. Christopher says, you think a lot of late fig tree varieties will produce and survive at the Jersey Cape? Any input? All right, you mean like Cape Cod? I think you're talking about South Jersey on the coast. My parents have a tree there. They have a property there, and it does extremely well. It survives every year. I have Marseille Black VS in the ground, which is a hardy Chicago type. In itself, it's one of the hardiest varieties that exist. However, just about every tree on that island survives. I've driven around the island. There's all kinds of Celestes and blue Celeste and all kinds of weird stuff. And it's like a wonderful microclimate, because even though it's considered the same zone as where I'm at, it could reach 0 there, but it's only going to be at 0 for such a short time. And they have such an amazing microclimate from the water. Yeah, Cape May, I mean, that's where they're at. Absolutely. Especially the closer you are to the water, the better chance you have. They're literally a street over from the bay. And the whole town, though, is only, like 9 or 10 streets wide from the ocean to the bay. So the whole island just gets this crazy microclimate, and nothing dies there. And I've seen some huge fig trees there. If you just grow a hardier fig tree, it'll live there. Yeah, if you're a block off from the bay, yeah, for sure. Get like a hardy Chicago or a Celeste. Floria, Long de Doute would be really good there too. Pastelliere, Moro de Caneva. That list right there in that early category is what you should be striving for. I planted a English brown turkey at my parents' neighbor across the street. She's the cutest Italian lady, little old Italian lady, and she wanted a fig tree, and she found out that we were growing them. So I got her one. I went and planted one at her house this summer, and it was an English brown turkey. So you could do a lot of fig varieties down there. So he's still growing wasabi 3 months ago. Okay. Planetary awareness. When are you gonna grow? When are you gonna try durian? Oh man, I do want to try durian for sure. I'm really tempted to just order that thing. I should just contact her. You know that thing? You know what I'm talking about, right? Where the weird fruit explorer. He did this video recently on a durian tasting that he was sent some durian from this woman. And let's see, where is it at? By the way, him and I were supposed to meet up this summer. We just couldn't find time. But here it is right here, the mail order durian. And there's this woman that sent him to promote it for free. Sent him this durian package. And Is this the tour that you're doing? I personally, like, I'm sort of waiting for certain people to contact me. You know, I don't mind buying some durian and trying it myself because I'm sure I would love it, or hate it. But I'm waiting for people, like, there's a bunch of these things where they mail order you a bunch of tropical fruits, or they mail order you this to then promote it for them. And I'd rather do that. I'd rather sort of wait for that thing to happen eventually. I don't know. I guess my name or my channel has to grow just a bit more to get more attention in this kind of thing. But there's also, I think, one that's like a Florida. There's a Florida one where they ship fruits, tropical fruits out of Florida. You know, and they should. This is like also sort of helping their business. You know, they really should be doing this. Reaching out to like YouTubers and different people and getting them to promote different things. This was a cool video though. That Jared did. I enjoyed this one. Let's see here. Where are we at here, guys? I think we're going to wrap this up in the next 20 minutes. So we're going to end at 10 p.m. EST. And then we're going to call it a night. I think I'm not even going to finish this wine here. It's kind of late, but I guess I'll take another sip. I actually really enjoyed this wine. Whatever it is, I really liked it. I think this is a Ruffino wine. This is a Ruffino wine. I could probably find the name of it. If you guys don't use this thing, Vivino, and you like wine, I think you should. Oh, this was it right here. It was a Chianti Classico right here. This is what I'm drinking right now. And it's actually pretty good. I think it's pretty cheap too. I don't think it's an expensive wine. But I actually enjoyed it. And what I'm really liking so far in my wine nowadays is I really like this thing here to be super acidic. This is the wine that, for me, makes it so much better. That high level acidity. I love the dryness here. I actually enjoy a tannic wine. And I like the bold flavors. Basically like your super like in your face, punch in the face wine. But you know, it's got to be balanced too. So I don't know if I could have the wine that I wanted that was like full acidity, full tannicness, full bold, and full dry. I don't even know if I'd like that, but I bet you something similar is what I go for. And yeah, like pretty much any Barbaresco that's worth its weight is gonna be pretty much like that. Let's see if we can find one. Look at this. Whew. This one's probably real good, although I've never tried it. See the acidities all the way at the end here? That's what I'm looking for. And I like the oakiness too. I like them when they're oaked. Nebbiolo grape, that's what you want. This Nebbiolo grape produces the most acidic wine you can grow, as far as I can tell. And I don't know if there's other things that are going on besides just having the right genetics with your grape. There probably is some soil, something going on with the soil, and of course the soil moisture is obviously key, but you know, getting that acidity in your wine is like mind-blowing. And if I could grow a Nebbiolo grape, which I probably could if I bag them, I would love that. I really would. I think I should try it one day. That's one thing I want to experiment with a lot in the future. So Bluska says, if I understand correctly, if I have started a Ficus carica from Israeli seeds, and after 3 years it started to produce figs, it could be a male, and those figs won't be edible. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's very likely that those figs won't be edible, especially if the fig wasn't pollinated. if it wasn't pollinated, and which is the figs in Israel usually are not. A lot of that region doesn't have the fig wasp. Then yeah, you won't even have any chance of getting a female fig. You need to have a pollinated fig. Once you have a pollinated fig and you propagate a seed from that, there's a 25% chance that your fig will be common. There's also a 25% chance that it will be inedible. But if you don't have it pollinated and you propagate seeds from that, I believe your chances are almost none, I think, of getting something that's edible. And I don't remember the exact specifics on that, but at the end of the day, let's say even it was edible, it's not going to be the fig that you want to grow. First off, it's probably not going to be that tasty, and it's not going to ripen when you want, because you're really just throwing a dart at a dartboard in the dark and hoping that it lands on very early fig, right? But you just completely change the genetics of the variety. It's pretty much completely ruined, and a lot of the times you just get very poor quality figs. It's better to find a fig that's withstood the test of time, has adapted to a very cold and a shorter season environment. That's going to be your best bet. I don't want to discourage anybody from breeding, but there hasn't been too much success out there with breeding, and it costs a lot of money and a lot of time. So that's not something that I'm sure you're willing to do, unfortunately. Arthur says, if I consider growing avocados, I have. Well, what's so special about the variety Fantastic, Arthur? Because the issue with avocados, you need two of them. They need to pollinate each other. They need to be of the A and the B type. You grow them in a pot. After 3 years, they finally fruit, and at that point, they need to be root pruned. And you can't root prune them because then they will die. They have very weird root systems and finicky root systems to them, so that doesn't really end up working out. Let's see here. Where are we at here, guys? Oh, yeah. That. Okay, it's the other guy who does the videos, and you do some other stuff online. Okay. Wasabi's doing great and easy to grow. It likes shade and fertile soil and is pretty hardy. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder how hardy it is, because I think that was the big question for me. I need a fertile soil. I need some constantly wet soil, but we do have a lot of rain here. But the hardiness is my big question. I guess I could insulate it. Alrighty. Nicholas says he's gonna send me a bottle of wine. That'd be really cool, buddy. Alrighty. So I think we're gonna call it a day here, guys. I think we're gonna call it a night in this AMA. I hope you guys learned something here. If you guys got something out of this little fruit talk episode, plus the AMA that we did, yeah, I would recommend that you guys check out our blog first off, figboss.com. This is a great blog that I'm trying to direct a lot of traffic here to. We're still working with an artist, and we need to really get this thing refined and up and running, and then once that all happens and it looks nice and everything's perfect the way I want it, we're going to really focus on a lot of content here. So subscribe down here at the bottom if you guys aren't already, and you guys will get notified of when we have new blog posts. But also we have plants for sale, and there's not a whole lot for sale that's left, but if you got it this far in the video, I am offering a 30% off discount because we're trying to get rid of all of our merchandise by mid-January. We're almost done here. There's not really much of anything left. That way I can pretty much focus on tax season, and I don't have to be bothered by this, and it frees up some room in the fridge. So we're trying to get all this stuff sold by January 15th. Again, what you need to do is that when you buy this stuff, is that you're going to get yourself an invoice. You can see your invoice here on the left side. Click on the invoice. When you win the auction or you buy this, you can just straight up buy it now on some of these things. It'll send you the invoice, and then you can purchase it with money through PayPal. But don't do that. Send me a message on Figbid. You can contact me very easily. You can go down here and let's see, where is the contact seller thing? I'm not sure. Maybe because I don't see it. Maybe because I'm the one. Yeah, you can hit this contact seller button, and then you can send me a message that just says Ross. That's the promotional code. When I get that promotional code, I'll adjust the invoice, take 30% off the invoice, then you guys can pay, and then you'll get the discount that way. Just doing it in that order really helps me out. There's a fee through PayPal when refunding people. So, yeah, just totally recommend that, guys. If you also enjoyed this podcast, you got a lot of help out of this, consider supporting us on Patreon. That's not something I like to promote all the time, but on the podcast, we usually do that at the end. And just recommend that if you're thinking about supporting me, that's one way to do it. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me here. Happy New Year to everybody out there. I hope everybody had a good holiday, and I hope you guys are going to have a good growing season in 2020, all right? The Fig Boss merchandise is coming soon, too. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care. We'll see you next week.